Hello, welcome to Complete Beginner's Ukulele Lesson 5. Now if you've done the first 4 lessons, you should have these things pretty confidently. One is strumming down on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't underestimate that one. If you can play on the beat solidly in time, people are always going to want to play with you. We've also learned the calypso strum. Down, up. And we talked about the importance of our hand keeping this up and down motion. Then we learned 6 chords. C, F, and we actually had 2 versions of F because you can leave this finger on from a C chord or not have that one. They're both an F chord. And we had G7, and lots of songs use those 3 chords. Then we learned 3 minor chords that go with them. A minor, D minor, and E minor. So before we move on, make sure you've got all of those things pretty confidently. Yes, you'll still miss things now and again, and sometimes strings will rattle and you'll go out of time. But as long as you're pretty confident that most of the time you can hit one of those 6 chords whilst you're doing a strum, either a calypso strum or a straightforward on the beat strum. Let's have a little troubleshooter before we go any further. Do make sure that you're keeping your left hand thumb on the back of the neck. If you let the neck fall into your hand here and wrap your thumb around, you're going to find it very hard to get to some of these chord shapes. You end up bending your fingers as far as they'll go. That E minor is a really difficult one to get if you've got your thumb wrapped round. But if you drop your thumb down onto the back of the neck and relax, it's not really much of a bend of your fingers to get that nice arch on them. The other thing is we're trying to put our fingers down at the same time or as close to as we can. It's no good putting them down one at a time. Now of course we're going to do that at the beginning, but as soon as you feel confident to try putting them all down at the same time, a magic thing will happen. After a little while of doing that, your hand will start to get used to that shape and will start to form it in the air on the way to the strings. So when I go for a G7 chord, watch my hand here. Stop. I haven't got there yet, but my hand is already in the G7 shape and all I've got to do is put it down on the strings. That's not me consciously doing that. That's a result of my hand doing these things so much that my brain now knows what's expected of it and starts sending the instructions to my fingers in advance so that when I get there, I can put them all down together. And that's the secret of fast chord changes. So keep practicing those. Now in this lesson, we're going to move on to 2 new chords and one slightly different version of one of the chords we already know. Now we've had a G7 before. And a 7th chord is a particular kind of chord. 7th chords have an element of tension that like to resolve. So it's like we're not home, but we want to go home, and it doesn't sound right unless, so when we play a G7, it really feels like it wants to go back to a C. And that's quite a satisfying thing, and that's really the heart of how music works. It sets us up for something, and then there's the payoff. We might want a G chord, though, that doesn't have that tension in it. So now we're just going to learn a plain old G. Or, like we've discussed before, it's really a G major, but we don't tend to say that major bit, it's just assumed. A G chord looks like this. And we're going to form it by putting our index finger on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string nearest the floor. And then our ring finger is going to come in between them on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Now already that's a little bit difficult because you're trying to get your 2nd finger under your 1st finger and it can be a bit of a squeeze. So the trick here is to rotate your hand around. It can go as far as it needs to. My knuckle here is almost touching the headstock of my uke. And that angle means I can put these fingers down next to each other really easily, whereas if I had my hand like this, I really can't. Now you might find that then that makes it hard to reach this finger. So then you can always bring this angle back a little bit more until this isn't particularly uncomfortable, but that can reach. you'll find a position that works for your hands and your uke. So let's play that chord. Okay. And of course, the thing we have to do, as well as learning chords, is learn how to move between them. So when you practice your chords, start adding that G chord in there. Now we have a G, we can actually start treating the G chord like home, like a new key, the key of G. We wouldn't really have a G7 for that because a seventh chord doesn't feel like home. We need a major chord for home in a major key. Now the good news is we already know, now we've learned that G, 4 of the 6 chords that belong in the key of G, because we already know some of them. We can count through the alphabet again. We can go G, what comes after G? In the musical alphabet, when we get to G, we go back to A. What do we know? Oh, we know an A minor. That's fine, we have an A minor. What else do we know? What comes after A? B. We haven't learned that yet. We'll do that in a moment. What comes after B? C. We know a C. That's fine. What comes after C? D. Not learned that yet. We'll put that right in a moment. That's one of those 2 chords we've got to learn. What comes after D? E. We know an E minor. 1, 2, 3, the B that's missing. 4 is the C. 5 is the D that's missing. And 6 is the E minor. So I've already given the game away. We're going to learn 2 chords, one of them that has a D in the name and one of them that has a B in the name. Well, to keep to our pattern of having 2 major chords, a 7th chord and 3 minor chords that we had in the key of C, we're going to learn a D7 and a B minor. Now I'm going to show you 2 different ways of playing D7. You can choose whichever one you want. They're both a D7 chord. One of them involves a bar. Our B minor also involves a bar. So this is a new technique that we're going to have to get our hands and our head around. First of all though, let's do the easier D7. It looks like this. We're at the 2nd fret on the 4th string, miss a string, 2nd string. And that's a D7 chord. The alternative to that is this, which is we put our first finger, and this is the bar I was talking about, we put our first finger all the way across the 2nd fret. We're going to hold down all of the strings. And then we're going to add our 2nd finger right where we'd put it for a C chord, the 3rd fret of the 1st string. So that's quite a difficult thing to do because one finger needs to be straight and one finger needs to be bent. So that's going to take a little while to get used to. So first of all, let's look at getting this bar right. It's an important thing to be able to do on the ukulele. As we said before, that thumb's got to be on the back of the neck. If you've got your thumb wrapped around, you're not going to be able to get that finger to lay flat. So put your thumb on the back and just lay your finger across. It doesn't have to line up with the top of the neck here. It can stick over a bit, whatever's most comfortable for you. And you can rotate your hand a little bit that way so that instead of your hand being flat, it's sort of a little bit of the side of your finger. That gives you a bit more room here to move these fingers around. So we want the 3rd fret with our 2nd finger there and that finger all the way across the 2nd fret. The first time you play this, it will sound like this. It'll sound awful. Don't squeeze hard if it is sounding like that. It's not how hard you squeeze, it's just getting used to getting your fingers in just the right place. So if you find it doesn't sound nice, just try sliding your finger up or down a little bit. Maybe the little wrinkles and creases in your finger are lining up with the strings and meaning you can't quite press down. You'll find the place where this turns into this. Now that's also a D7 chord. Now our B minor chord also involves a bar at the 2nd fret. But instead of this finger here, we're going to miss out our 2nd finger and we're going to use our ring finger to play the string nearest the ceiling at the 4th fret. So I'm moving that finger out the way to show you. You wouldn't play it like that. There we go. This one's playing the 4th string nearest the ceiling and this bar is across all of them. And we should get this sound. Now if you think about it, that chord shape is just like our A minor chord. But we've moved all of the strings up by 2 frets, even these open strings, 1, 2. And later on, we'll look at how we can move those shapes and lots of other shapes all over the neck and recycle shapes that we already know. But that's for another lesson. So now we have these 6 chords in alphabetical order. See if you can play them with me. Our new G. After G we have A minor. After A minor we have B minor, our new one. So take a bit of time to get that one. After B minor we have C. After C we have D7, whichever way you want to do it. And after D comes E, and we know an E minor that we learned before. And those are the 6 most common chords in the key of G. So now we're going to learn to play a song in the key of C using our original chords, and then we're going to move it to the key of G. A very simple song, When the Saints Go Marching In. In C it looks like this. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. I want to be in that F number. When the saints go G7 marching in. Now let's see if we can do it in the key of G. Now what I'm trying to show you here is that those 6 chords we learned in the key of C, and the 6 chords we've learned in the key of G, and 6 chords in any future keys we might learn, all relate to each other in the same way. So we can play the same song using a different bunch of chords, and that will still sound like the same song, but it'll seem higher or lower in pitch. It will be in a different key, and it might suit our voices better. In the key of G, we'd need these chords. Good news, no B minor, we don't have to worry about that bar yet, unless you want to bar your D7. We're going to need G, not G7, but G, because that's our home in the key of G. Then we're going to need a D7, either that one or that one, it's up to you. And finally, a C. Here we go. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. That's our D7. I want to be in that C number. When the saints go marching in. Did you notice that as we were in a different key, I had to sing higher that time? And that's really the only difference between these keys, is that some of them we would have to sing higher or lower. And it's good to be able to play in more than one key because it gives us some variety. Not everything sounds the same, but also it will suit our voices and maybe the other people we're playing or singing with. They might not all be playing ukuleles. They might have their own nice favourite keys on their instrument. So keep practicing, really work hard on those bar chords, the D7 and the B minor. The thing with those is, everyone imagines learning an instrument is a graph that goes up like that, but it doesn't. It goes up in steps, and this is one of those steps. Don't be disheartened. Everybody finds these chords a little bit more challenging than just putting one finger down to play a C. Of course it is. Don't squeeze too hard with them, and if you do get the odd rattle and buzz when you're playing them, don't stop. Power on through and keep playing the song, because the more you play those chords, the more your hand will get used to doing it, and they'll gradually start to sound better. I hope you've enjoyed this. Remember, you can go back over any of these lessons at any time. There's no hurry. It takes as long as it takes. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.